Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, if you are online and you can see us or hear us, there's lots of people here today, which is terrific. We've got lots of great news to share. We've got news from Toronto. We've got Mandeep representing the US. We've got realtors and investors and investment-focused realtors who are going to be able to tell us all kinds of things that they've heard. And somebody, it sounds like somebody's got a chime going in the background. So if you're not speaking, it might be helpful just to mute. So once again, if you have a question, pop it in that question box, say hello, let us know you are here, and we will get started. We'll just give people a couple more minutes. Looks like there's lots of people here. Valerie, Elisa, Daniel, Deb, Tina, all kinds of people. And of course, we've got our fabulous panelists today as well. So again, oh, hi, Valerie. Again, just mention who you are and where you're calling from in that chat box, and we will get started. And I think Cheri, Cheri's here too. Let me just make sure, because we had a couple of, there we go, had a couple of people coming in last minute, so we just want to make sure that we've got everybody there. Cheri, I think I just turned on your webcam.
Yeah, it said something about webcams, you know, reached its capacity or something.
Oh, all right. Well, there we go. So there we go. We know we've got a capacity of 6 people on the webcam. So we'll probably just get Lynn. I know sometimes your webcam goes a little crazy, so we'll shift off a little bit. So it looks like there's quite a few people here, and it's a couple minutes after 4, so why don't we get started? So today, obviously, we're going to continue our discussion about what the heck is going on in the world. I encourage you to, you know, make sure you've got a cup of tea. We're all staying hydrated and healthy. I know some of you have got a glass of wine. I think Mandeep, you were the smart one who went and grabbed a glass of wine. I'm still doing my Wild Fit diet program, which I have to tell you, doing a nutrition program during this time is actually like the best time to make some health changes, because you know nobody's going out for dinner. So it's a really good time to make some changes. I'm down 7 pounds, so I'm pretty excited about that. I was gonna, you know, going to Mexico, but that's, you know, not gonna happen now. So we'll just keep working on it. So good time for setting goals. It's so funny. I was talking about mapping out goals, and so I've got this map. It's the upside down world map, and it just seems so appropriate now because the world, it just feels like it's upside down. And on the back of it, I basically mapped out a whole bunch of goals. So I'm just going to show you really quickly, just so you can see what it looks like. It's pretty cool, and it's a great time to be doing all that kind of fun stuff. And so I mapped it out here on my upside down world map. So yes, so today we're going to get some updates, and I'll just introduce everybody who's here. So Cheri, I know we can't see you yet, but Cheri Crause is one of our key sponsors and speakers and supporters, and she'll be online shortly sharing some updates. She took lots of notes today about what was going on with the federal government and the provincial government with the rent notes in particular. Lynn is here from Toronto. We usually have Darlene here from the East Coast as well, but she was on 3 other webinars tonight because webinars are the way to go now. So she was in high demand. So I've monopolized her time over the last little while. So Lynn Trevisan, who is our sponsor and supporter from Toronto, Lynn's with Raintree Investments or Raintree Financial Solution, and Raintree is going to be getting, I think, quite a bit of business over the next little while as people move out of the stock market and into private equity. And we're going to be doing a dedicated talk next week about some of the issuers have great products that people can invest in. So Lynn's going to tell us a little bit about what's going on there. Tammy's here, and Tammy, of course, is representing Vancouver. So her and I are in Vancouver, and Tammy's one of our sponsors as well here in Vancouver, and always a cheery face with lots of news to share. And Julia, who is a WREN member and advisor, and has been, you've been with us a long time now, haven't you, Julia? Yeah, and of course, Julia has tenants and is an owner of property and is learning, you know, as all of us are, how to maneuver through these times. And Mandeep, also a WREN member who has property in the US. So I thought it'd be really interesting to hear a little bit about the perspective from the US. And we're going to start things off today with Lana, and Lana from LA Mortgages, also one of our wonderful sponsors. And Lana is going to give us a bit of an update on what is going on with the mortgages. Everybody's getting stuck on hold and being on hold for hours trying to talk to their bank. So I'm going to mute myself. Lana, if you want to give us a little bit of an update, and if anybody has any questions while Lana is giving us an update, please feel free to use that question box. And again, if you haven't been on the webinar before, just scroll down to that little arrow where it says questions, and you can type in a question there and I will see it come up momentarily. So take it away, Lana.
In regard to mortgages, we've had a number of calls. What we have been doing is sending, are you guys? No, you're good. What we've been doing is we've been sending out video emails to clients, and we've been placing them on Facebook as well, our clients and our partners, so that everybody's aware on a regular basis in regard to what's going on right now, because there are so many changes. I had a client contact me today asking me whether, because the rates are so low right now, it would be good for him to change out of his variable rate mortgage into a fixed term. And he's currently at prime -1. And the prime interest rate right now is 2.95. So I said, congratulations, you're in one of the most enviable places you could be right now at 1.95%. So one of the reasons why we recommend variable rate mortgages to clients are because they offer you so many more options. It is a known fact that the banks really push the five-year fixed term. And one of the reasons why they push it is because it's usually the lowest interest rate, but they're trying to get people locked in, because we in the industry are aware that people normally break their terms at about 33 months. And when they do that, they incur a large penalty, which the bank gets paid, and then in turn, they send that money out to another borrower. So variable rate mortgages are extremely advantageous because the interest penalty is always only 3 months interest. So, you know, it's a different conversation that we have with every client, and it's all about their long and short-term goals and what's important to them in regard to timing. Some say, you know, I really like fixed rates because I want my payment to be the same forever, and I don't want anything to change, and I know I'm keeping the property, and all of that stuff is terrific. And if that's what they want, then that's in their best interest. That's what we'll do. But we make sure that we have an educated conversation with them about because everybody's goals and plans for properties are different. So right now, prime is 2.95%. When the Bank of Canada dropped prime, the financial institutions decreased the discount that they were offering on variable rate mortgages. So in fact, variable rate mortgages that are being offered, a lot of them are prime plus 2.2, prime plus 0.3. So interest rates as well in regard to fixed terms. When prime went down the first time by 0.5, the majority of the interest rates went down in the same increment. And we are inundated daily with advisements that the financial institutions are increasing their interest rates daily by 0.1, 0.2, etc. So they're up to now, if not more than they were before this whole situation occurred. What is going on right now with a lot of people is they're unemployed, and they are looking to the financial institutions to support them in regard to possibly deferring, and I say deferring and not waiving, up to 6 months worth of payments. What deferment means is that they don't have to make the payment, but it's not forgiven. So any interest that they would have had to pay in that month is added to the next month that they don't pay, and the next month that they don't pay, and that's added to whatever balance is remaining. So when they actually start making mortgage payments again, their mortgage payments will be a little bit higher than they have been prior, because of course no payments have been made for however many months that they've chosen to waive. As far as that goes, a lot of people are on hold with the financial institutions for hours. So my recommendation would be not to call, but to email. And in your email, detail in the subject exactly what it is that you're asking for. So you're asking for mortgage payment deferral. And that financial institution may get back to you in 3 or 4 days, because they're getting thousands and thousands of emails. TD within a period of 2 days had 42,000 emails. So it's really important that if you need that assistance and you want to take advantage of that, to send it in. Now, we have heard that there are some financial institutions that are just granting 6 months period. Maybe you only need 2, maybe you only need 3, but they're granting 6. Others are granting 1 immediately, and then during the next month they will contact you to see what your situation is and then determine if it should be an additional month, 2, 3, etc. Every financial institution is different, so there is no one pat answer. Some of the financial institutions require you to complete a form. It's a questionnaire, and send it in to them. So we're certainly happy to answer any questions. It's really important again that each person be talking to that financial institution directly, because we work for you, not the institutions. So, but they won't speak with us on your behalf. So it's kind of a catch-22, but we're certainly happy to direct clients in the right direction.
That's awesome.
I didn't have an opportunity to watch TV at all today, so
I'm sure you are
I
very
have
busy.
no idea what occurred today.
Well, you'll get a little bit of an update, because I'm sure quite a few of us today were watching. Of course, the BC government made some announcements to help out tenants and landlords, investors, and so there's some news on that front. Some people think it's good, some people think it's okay, but it's a start, and there's a few things that I'm sure people are going to be a little bit freaked out about. But yeah, it is what it is, and we'll get an update about that. So Lana, what I might get you to do is just pop your camera off, but if you can hang out with us, please do. If anybody has any questions right away, please feel free. And Cheri, I'm going to try putting your camera on. We'll see if that works.
Liza,
yes,
it's Tammy. I'm currently renewing 2 mortgages which come up April 13th. If you're interested in my experience going through this right now.
Yes. Do you want to come on up? Cheri's just getting ready, so we can. It's all good. So Tammy, do you want to give us your version of what your experience
it's happening for me?
That would be great.
First and foremost, I've spent years working on developing a very close relationship with one person at the bank. And I purposefully did not reach out or try to bug him at all. But then I was like, oh yeah, it's a couple weeks, I better. So I sent him an email and it just said, hey, don't want to bug you, but I've got a couple mortgages coming up. I don't have your cell phone number. 30 seconds later, my phone rang. So that's the kind of response that I got, because I didn't have to wait on hold for 4 to 6 hours or these formidable times. My guy called me right away. So my options, interestingly, this is CIBC, were a 4-year fixed at 2.44, but that was expiring today and going up 30 points to a 2.74. So I either had to go with that, or I didn't have to, but he was saying there's that option, 4-year fixed, 2.44, changing today, or they had a variable at prime minus 0.2, which from what I'm understanding, a lot of the variables being offered right now are at prime, or they're going to plus prime. So I said, in anticipation of the fact that rates are supposed to continue to go down, I'm still feeling on the variable side. So I said, if you can ask for more than -0.2, that would be great. And he emailed me this morning and said, I've submitted prime minus 0.95. I said, great. So I'll let you know next week how that goes. But the long story short is that I've given them a lot of my business. I've given them my loyalty. I've given them mortgages and things like that, and tried to keep my portfolio with them. And whenever there was maybe another person saying they could get a better rate, I pushed them to match that. And it seems to be paying off for me now. So I will let you know next week if I get my prime minus whatever. I thought 0.95 was
wow,
aggressive,
amazing.
but prime minus anything, I said, I'm happy, you know.
Fantastic, yeah. And,
So
and I think,
yeah.
and Tammy, I think that's, it's a really good point, and that's one of the things that we've been talking about a lot lately. Oh, hey, Rick, is relationships.
Hey, Arnold.
Get out there. No, don't get out there. Stay home.
Stay home.
Do anything that is going to threaten everybody else in the community. We're going to take care of our elders.
Don't touch your face.
Bye, Rick.
Social distance.
So Tammy, I think the one of the key points here is relationships, and that's coming up, of course, with the tenant landlord issue as well. Is the better relationship you have with your tenants, the better relationship you have with the landlord, the easier this is going to be. And so the relationship with your banker obviously is a key relationship as well, because who doesn't want to have their banker phoning them 30 seconds after sending an email saying, hey dude, yeah, we need to talk, and then your phone rings. That's pretty awesome. So we're really, we're really just driving that home that for those people who are on the webinar and staying connected, it is all about, staying connected, getting in touch with people, keeping in touch, reaching out, learning what you can, taking tips and tricks from each other, and seeing what we can use to move us forward on this. So that's awesome. Thanks, Tammy. And has the market slowed down at all for you in Vancouver?
Let's just say yes.
Yeah.
There are still people buying, but the general consensus is that it's people who have sold and need to buy. So it's no longer the frothy frenzy it was just even as of 2 weeks ago. A lot of the realtors really don't want to do showings, even if they're one-on-one. We're all feeling apprehensive and scared, and each realtor is their own business. They run their own business within the guidelines of our brokerages and the real estate boards. The board, as of Monday, did disable the open house function. So no more open houses, although some people are trying to skirt that, but nonetheless, again, each realtor is their own business. So we'll see as the weeks, honestly, depending on how long this lasts, they will determine the impact on the market, because it was super frothy.
Yeah.
Really recently ago.
It's pretty crazy. I mean, just a couple weeks ago, you were talking about multiple offers and things going over asking. Cheri was saying the same thing. So my, how quickly things can change.
Absolutely. When sellers say to me, maybe we should wait till the fall, I'm always like, no, you don't know. And you sound kind of like a jerk, because you don't really know what's going to happen. You don't want to be a doomsdayer, like, well, anything could happen. A pandemic could happen. Well, guess what? It can.
Guess what?
Oh,
all right, well,
dear.
let's shift it over to Cheri, because Cheri was paying close attention today to the province of BC announcements, and I'm sure she can give us a little bit of an update. And I will mute myself. Cheri, I think you are good to go. And again, if you've got any questions, just pop them in that question box, and I will take a look at those. Thank you, Tammy, and go ahead, Cheri.
Yeah. Okay. So we had. I feel overall it was a good starting point for the province. I thought it was well presented. So our premier came on at, I think it was about 12:30 today. So basically, and it was mainly to address renters and landlords. And I like the fact that he did stress a lot of how important it is for landlords, and landlords are in the same position, but there are housing providers. He used that term, which was great, and that he needs to, you know, try to balance it. So what they came out with, which was part of their 2.86 package that they brought out on Monday, is that $500 a month will be going to renters. Now, when he came out originally, he said 4 months. There was a couple more times it was mentioned as 3, so I wasn't able to clarify whether it's 4 or 3. Justin Trudeau's announcement this morning was definitely $2,000 a month for 4 months. But either way, it's going to be done through BC Housing because they have already the framework in place because they have used the SAFER and other rental subsidy programs. So they figured they can roll it out quicker. I'm not clear. One of the things is I think this is going to be paid directly to the landlord and not to the tenant. But it does have to go through a application process. So he was very clear in saying, if you can pay your rent, pay your rent. The other thing they brought out, of course, is that as of April 1st, there will be no more evictions. You cannot evict with exceptions. There are always exceptions, and they didn't go into great detail of what those were. And then there's a rent freeze, so no rental increases. Even if you gave out the increase 2 months ago for April 1st, they're staying on the same rent, so there is no rental increase. And just to try to stabilize everything, so the provincial guys felt that with the $2,000 a month federal money, the $1,000 they promised for people on Monday from the province, plus this $500 a month, should make it a lot easier for people to deal with. They don't have their portal up yet. They're relying on that coming out over the next few days, but they're going to be looking at a lot of stuff. He did call out the banks and financial institutions to get their act together to work with people, because he'd been hearing that some banks were more reluctant than others, and so he was taking that quite seriously. But to really kind of call them out on that, which I thought was great. They're looking for different things, and then Minister Robinson got up. She talked about, you know, they're even looking at how do you restrict how many numbers of people can be in a shared laundry room in a building for tenants. So they're going to be coming out with rules around that. Landlords, however, this is a new change, cannot enter a tenant's home. Like, you cannot enter a tenant's unit at this point in time. They're suspending that, keeping people out. I know as a realtor right now that a lot of tenants are saying, no, we're not letting people, you know, potential buyers come in and look at the property, and they have the right to do that. Associate who was showing a house yesterday, and then they decided not to go because they couldn't see the suite. If they couldn't see the suite, it wasn't going to do a deal anyway. So approximately 500,000 renters are in the province of BC. And so he said when they looked at the numbers, they were assuming 100% of those renters would be using this $500 a month, and then they're going to go work backwards from that. So when they've looked at the numbers, they're assuming that every renter out there is going to need this $500 a month. It'll be a BC renter supplement, and forms at the federal level. So if you are applying for the federal $2,000 a month, that will be proof enough. You don't have to prove that you've been hours are cut, or that you're sick, or that you lost your job or anything. That will be proof enough for them. And they're hoping to get it so that it's going to come out quickly. Justin Trudeau had said this morning that they're working on their portal, their application portal, and that from the time then that you are able, that is up and running, and you're able to submit to expect money within 10 days. So it's not going to come for April 1st rent, which is why if you can pay your rent, you pay your rent. If not, work with your landlord to try to figure out what can you do to get through this first month of April until things are running smoothly in May for money coming in from EI. I know personally I have 3 tenants so far that have been laid off from their jobs, and a lot of them do have either April's rent or pretty darn close to it, so they'll be able to catch up once EI kicks in. So that was that. There was a question that came out, which was, well, what if people, like a tenant and a landlord, have a really massive disagreement, and one's going, I want you out, and the other's going, I'm not going to pay you rent, a massive disagreement, what do you do? And the only answer that came forward was the residential tenancy branch is still open, and you'll need to deal with that through there. So they also said that this is the first step for landlords and renters, and that there will be more probably coming depending on how things develop. And the interesting thing that I thought was they were asked directly if, you know, is this like per person or is this like per property? Because if you have a situation where there are 3 roommates, can each person make an application, or is it just the whole house as a whole make the application? And the answer was they didn't know. They were looking at that now, and that will be a further announcement. So they don't, you know, they've come up with this, but they don't have all the details worked out. But it was trying to ease a lot of the stress out there from people going, ah! So that in a nutshell was sort of what he had to say. Justin Trudeau, it's now called, just to keep things clear because they've been evolving, the Emergency Response Benefit, which is the $2,000 a month, which they took from that $900 every 2 weeks before, and they've broadened it to who would qualify, etc. So in a nutshell, that's what was announced, and I do feel that that causes a lot of, it doesn't take away the whole pain, but at least I feel like, yes, they're listening to what we've been saying, because people have been writing in and going, my bank's not cooperating, or what do we do about rental properties? They're recognizing that landlords are an important fact in housing, and you don't want people to have to lose their housing, but you can't have the landlord lose the property because then you've lost the housing. So there were a lot of positives there. You know, is it enough? No, but I think that it will be a start. And from my position, like any money that my tenants give me right now, it's gratefully accepted. When I know that people are going through a hard time. And the other thing that I heard today that I thought was really good in regarding your tenants is utilities, right? Like their hydro and their water. If they're responsible for paying that, they need to pay that. And rent. So sometimes you might have to be a little forgiving or accept that they're $200 short because they've had to pay their hydro. But if they don't pay their hydro and the hydro gets cut off, they're in a worse shape. So be compassionate about, you know, it's the utilities, the rent, and, you know, food. Those are the 3 main things, plus medications. But it goes on, and hopefully this will definitely help people.
That's awesome. Thanks for that update, Cheri. And yeah, I was listening to it as well, and I thought there were a couple of interesting things. That whole roommate thing was interesting because, you know, I live in co-housing, and there's lots of people who have more than 1 or 2 roommates, people who have rent that's, you know, $3,500, $4,500, $5,500 a month. And if you've got 5 people living in a $5,000 a month house who all just got laid off, well, $500 isn't going to make much of a dent. So hopefully they'll get that figured out. And that's where one of the other things that I think we have to start really doing more of is as investors, as tenants, as landlords, as people who are involved in this at so many different levels, we have to get more involved with the government. So we've got to be giving them more information about our situations. We've got to be calling our MPs. We've got to be getting involved in the housing associations, the tenants associations, the investments associations, and just staying active in the community where we get the education from. One of the other people that I reached out to today, Hunter Boucher at Landlord BC. So he thinks he'll be able to come online with us next week. So it'll be great to really get an update from Landlord BC right on like next Wednesday's April 1st. So we'll see what kind of a shit show it is. You may have to bump to the next week.
One other thing, if I can add, is that I got from a property manager today that I thought was really, really good was, you know, because a lot of the benefits like EI and everything aren't going to be hitting the doors April 1st. It's to go to tenants and say, look, what can you pay me April 1st? And then we need to sit down and review this April 15th, okay? And work out some sort of payment schedule, because they still legally, and it was very clear on all angles, they still legally need to pay that rent, whether they can or not. And we're just trying to work out a way. So I thought the whole thing of, yeah, let's review this on April 15th. We're going to have more contact with our tenants than we've had in a long time. But let's sit down and figure out like what's going to be reasonable, what's reasonable for you, what's reasonable for them. There's going to have to be give and take on both sides.
Excellent. And just to reiterate, so we're looking at from the provincial government a $500 potential rent relief for tenants. We're looking at a $2,000. Well, I don't know what was the amount that the federal government
from the
emergency response benefit from the federal government, and also a $1,000 benefit, and that was also from the provincial government.
Yeah,
and so all of those are really easy to access. If you just type in BC government COVID-19, you're going to get all kinds of information. And of course, we'll make sure that we've got everything posted. And Cheri, how's the market over there?
Well, it's slow. So I had a closing today, which was kind of just a frantic thing, but not really related to COVID-19. It was related to a futon, but that's a story for another day. So, but anyway, the market is slow and we have very scared people out there. So we have a deal for some buyers who were supposed to close on April 15th that have now informed us that they don't want to close.
Right.
They would rather walk away from their deposit than feel this was a revenue property, and they have doubts as to whether they can get the renters that they wanted. They have doubt that they can do the renovation and get their money out on a refi. So they're just really scared and they don't want to tie up their money. I've sent them to the lawyer. They had a discussion with their lawyer and are still going, yeah, we're not going to close. Can you assign it? Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you know anybody who wants a great duplex property, this is good.
I was just going to jump in and say, hey, Cheri, give me a call. I'd like to hear more about it. Seeing that your buyers are backing out, your sellers are probably interested in hearing some creative strategies. So,
exactly. So we represent the buyer, unfortunately. We don't represent the seller. But yeah, the sellers would be anxious. But yeah, so I mean, we've sent it out to some people, but you know, it's just in a time where it's hard. And a lot of my associates right now are trying to deal with, how do you actually like just deal with the whole thing of taking people into houses and the liability, and our E&O doesn't cover you for viruses catching, and how are they going to prove it anyway? But it is quite a concern. How do you get into people's houses and not touch things?
Yeah.
You know, how do you, Rick was in the grocery store the other day and there was a kid there that ended up licking the Visa terminal, right? So, I mean, it just happens and it's there, and there's so many surfaces that you touch. And so I am trying to encourage buyers and sellers to wait.
Yeah.
I think that, there will be pent up demand and there will be a lot of things happen when this is over. As realtors, we're probably going to be running around like chickens with our heads cut off, because it will be so busy when we get out of this. But, up to now, everybody has to gauge what their own personal risk factor is, or your exposure limitations for yourself as well as your clients. And there are going to be some people that have to sell or have to buy. And it's a matter of how do we accommodate that. And so right now, anybody who's looking at listing, definitely have a 3D tour done. Like, make sure your realtor is going to get a 3D tour on that property so that you can actually show it virtually with much better perception than just, a bunch of photos run together in a video. It's just not going to be the same. So I think the 3D thing is going to do a lot. Meeting people on Zoom calls, face chat, whatever it's going to be, is going to become so much more.
Yeah.
And So yeah, but definitely the market is slowed and a lot of realtors are scared, and I think brokerages are scared. They've got rent to pay, they've got employees to pay. Everything keeps going, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And so, yes, there's lots of fear. There's also lots of opportunity to learn right now. Tons of opportunity to learn, tons of opportunity to get other stuff finished while we're waiting for, life to get back to normal. Lynn, do you want to tell us a little bit about what's going on in Toronto and tell us about the webinar we're going to do next week? We've been talking about how so many people are running away from the stock market, and the exempt market is suddenly seeing a surge, and that's really exciting for some of the investors who are looking for some interesting and safe places to put their money right now.
Sure. So, and I'll say, I think just on the real estate, I don't think Toronto's any different from anywhere else. I think that's similar here. A number of realtors that I kind of connect with through my day-to-day. Personally, we're looking we thought we'd be listing, and I think we're holding on for a little bit for a investment property. So, on the private market investment side, it's an interesting environment, and it depends at what stage people were at. So if people had already made the decision to transfer some of their RSPs out of the public market into the private market, they'd already cashed the public market stuff, those ones are going through no problem at all. A lot of the private market, many of them are somewhat recession resistant. You can't say it's recession proof, but there are some with, certain aspects in the industries that they're in where they're, somewhat sheltered. But I do have some clients that we were getting there, and sometimes those transfers can take a couple weeks. So suddenly, if their portfolio fell by 25%, you know what, that amount they were transferring isn't the same anymore. And so some of those I've said, you know what, let's wait until there's a little bit of a recovery. We'll revisit this once things are a little bit back to normal. It's a hard pill to lock in that loss. So you know what, the investments will be there in a few months from now, right? So it's some of it is pausing. Actually had some people that had exited out of real estate, so actual physical land real estate, and then they're looking to go into, so then they're sitting on cash. So then that's okay, it was never in the public market anyway, but maybe we'll put it into, real estate trusts, so compilations of many different properties. It's a little bit more diversified than any one individual property, than any one individual geography. So they're looking at putting investments into some of these bigger real estate funds. So that speaks to next week. So Wednesday, hopefully, well, no, we've got Centurion is confirmed. Centurion is a large fund company. They are out of Toronto. Let's see, 2.3 billion, I think, on their current real estate income trust that they have. They've got a couple other funds as well. They were closed to investment, but they've reopened because they see this as a buying opportunity. This fund is in multi-residential apartments and it's in student housing, and they think there's an opportunity, as with some of this turmoil, to pick up some properties. And they'd been staying away from some of the GTA markets and other markets because they thought they were overpriced. So now they're looking to say, well, here, there might be an opportunity to get in. So they've opened their fund to new investments. It had been closed. Typically they go out, they do a raise, they go and deploy that raise, and then they close it for a while they're spending. But now they want to build up some equity to go out and spend. So, and then the other one we're hoping to get on board is ICM. So it's also a real estate type of a fund. They do more industrial, commercial, office type, very much larger real estate projects in Canada, US, and Mexico. So it's kind of whenever we talk to clients about investing in the private market, it's you never just pick one. The idea is to diversify that private allocation that you would have. So we then look for different funds that are in different spaces or different sectors to get the diversification. So those are the two we're hopefully we'll have on next Wednesday.
That's awesome. Thanks, Lynn. And I know there's people who don't quite know what about the private equity market, so we'll talk a little bit more about that. I've met Jeff. He was at our Toronto event that we did last fall now. It's months ago now. Great guy. And really knowledgeable, and I really liked the ICM offerings. Great products, great diversity. I mean, everything from hospitals to hotels, really diverse projects that they were putting together. So that was great. Thanks, Lynn. And how are things in Toronto weather-wise? Have you still got some snow?
No, it has all rained and melted away at this point.
All right, so none of us are in snow right now. Probably Darlene is on the East Coast. She was in snow, but yeah, the flowers are blooming here. So I've been going out for my morning walk, and it's just been beautiful. So awesome. That's a good thing that the weather has been nice for us. So that's fabulous. So I'm going to ask Mandeep to share a little bit about what's going on with the U.S. Investments, because Mandeep has got some properties in the US, so I thought it would just be really interesting to hear some perspective from our US investors. And Mandeep has kindly made herself available to share a little bit of what she's experiencing. So take it away, Mandeep.
Thank you. Yeah, so I just got off the phone with my real estate agent from there, as well as our 2 property managers. Raj spoke with our insurance guy that we normally use, just to kind of see what is covered in the sense, and he did say to look at your insurance documents. A lot of companies were putting in, after the whole SARS outbreak, a lot of insurance companies, I don't know how it is here, but in the States anyways, they were putting, after the SARS outbreak, they were putting some verbiage in there for closures, due to extraordinary or extraordinary circumstances. Unfortunately, none of ours have that wording in it on any of our buildings, but that also, he said, it depends on, what extent they go to. So I thought that was kind of interesting to find out. But as far as the market there, I think it depends on what your goals are. I think if you kind of sit and you review just what you want and what your long-term and short-term goals are, I think you'll find out if it's still a market to buy in or if you would want to hold right now. Right now, our real estate agent is just giving us, well, we have 2 deals right now on the go. For example, they're both in A areas. One is a 4-unit, and we're looking at it at about $480 for 4 units for an A area. I would say about a A-B type building. So, and that one's good to go. And then the other one that we just found out about today, and the initial numbers look really good, and it's 33 units in an A area. The building, from my opinion, is about a C+ building, so it needs work, but for $2.5 million. When we quickly spoke to our lender about this today, he said it wouldn't really be an issue. They're still moving forward with everything as scheduled. We are refinancing a couple of our buildings, and he said that it shouldn't be held up. I think the difference, I wasn't really in the market locally when the 2008 crash happened in the States, but I think because they've already been through that, I feel that they're almost, the finance sector anyways, well, in Kansas City specifically, they seem prepared for it. This didn't really phase them. They're like, you know what, it could be like a month or 2, and they didn't seem bothered by it or anything like that, which was really reassuring to Raj and I. Only one tenant of our 70+ units has said to us that they couldn't make the rent payment. She was a student. She was going back home because the school closed, and she was a server, so the restaurant closed as well. So she was just going home early anyways. Our retail people, they said they're all fine. We were debating whether or not we should actually write a letter to send to tenants, just kind of acknowledging the situation. And our lawyer actually suggested that we not do that. He basically said, don't give a reason for to give people an out already when they haven't even brought it up to you. It is the tenant's responsibility that if they can't make rent, that they contact the property manager ahead of time to organize something. So we took our lawyer's advice, and we haven't sent any letters out, and they're just kind of playing it by ear, and no one's complained. We have a couple of tenants that prepay 6 months at a time, which is nice. So yeah, things have been, I mean, we're still looking at buildings, we're still looking at purchasing, we're looking at going ahead with the 4-unit. The 33 unit is, I'm pretty excited about that because it needs some work. So it's a value add opportunity, which I'm super excited about. So things on my end from Missouri seem like everything's on track, on schedule, and we're pretty happy with it. So.
Well, it sounds amazing. You've got 70 units and only one person who's not able to pay rent. So hopefully that trend continues for you. And I think quite a few of us would probably be racing towards the US if the Canadian dollar wasn't where it's sitting right now. So
horrible, right?
Yeah. So you're already
that was one of our reasons to refinance, is just because we don't want to take our money here to there when we have capital or equity there, right? So but yeah, I wish with the gas prices going down, I thought that would have been, you know, something with the dollar as well. But no, I just feel like the dollar sucks.
Yes, and there's many reasons for that, but we won't be able to cover that today. We'll have to leave that for another time. Thanks for that update, Mandeep. It's really interesting to hear how different things are in the US. It's always different in the US, and when we're talking about investments, it really is like comparing apples and oranges. I mean, the US and Canada are so different. And so, Julia, it sounds like that means it's up to you to take us home. So I'd love to hear your perspective. How is it being in Vancouver with properties that you own in a couple of different places? And tell us how you're feeling and what you're doing to manage your investments.
Yeah, so interesting to be last and hear everyone's perspective, because it was quite a diverse amount of information. So just to speak to a few things with Cheri's comment around the CERB, the benefit, the emergency response benefit. So my understanding of that in some of the research that I've already done in terms of some of the articles that are out there is that if you're already collecting EI, you continue to collect EI, and then you would apply for this. So just even hearing what Cheri gave us, what I've been reading, and then the fact that, you know, people who are self-employed, they can also apply for this. Maybe they don't have as much contract work as they did before. I think one key factor I wanted to make was I'm trying to educate myself as much as possible on these programs, because I am feeding them to my tenants. So, and then to say what Mandeep said about, oh, my lawyer has advised don't talk to your tenants. Mine has advised the opposite. Talk to your tenants, be upfront. And it must be a Canadian US thing probably, but talk to your tenants, be upfront, you know, get them out of that place of fear. So I've been taking it upon myself to do extra work and learn about the programs to the point where I'm being super specific to my tenants. I'm telling them, here are all the programs. The ones I really think apply for you because you have children is the child benefit one, or you were at a job where you were employed, so EI is maybe the avenue you can take. And every time something new comes up, I'm just sending it over as another piece of information for them to consider. Because one thing I want is, listen, the government's putting this out there. It's incredible. Let's take use of it. Unfortunately, we don't know what the ramifications are in the long run. In terms of, I did see that the $2,000 is taxable. So to me, I had someone bring that up to me and I was like, yeah, but guess what? You would have been taxed anyways if you were getting paid. So don't worry about that right now. Take what you can get. You have 3 kids. That's what's most important for you. So taking that as an investor, taking the extra time to really look at your tenant profile. And that's what I did. As one thing, yeah, I did contact everyone, but I also just looked at the profile of who my people were. I have some people who are younger who might actually walk out on me, and they're going to be able to go move back in with their parents. So what's going to happen? What should I do in that case? How should I be preparing for that? So those are some of the things I'm thinking about as well. Cheri mentioned utilities. I'm not responsible for my utilities at my places, but they do come in my name, but they're deferred to my tenants every month. But I do fear my tenants might not pay, and that would be a late pay for me. So I called the utility company and said, hey, what are you guys doing? And in Chilliwack, for instance, they said that they're not charging any interest. I asked them about property taxes, because that's on me. And they said that's still yet to be decided. It hasn't been. So every area is doing something different. On the island in the Nanaimo area, I have a place in Cumberland, which is a small area in Comox, and they're shut down. They're like considered a village, so they're shut down. So I'm sending them emails. And then I wanted to make a comment to the relationship comment that Tammy made. I agree wholeheartedly. I have a senior advisor at Scotiabank, so somehow all my mortgages are at Scotiabank. I don't know, my mortgage broker probably just loves Scotiabank, but it's always worked out. And about a year and a half ago, I found someone at Scotiabank who I really got on with. And I thought, you know what, it's time to build relationships, because I need someone to go to bat for me every time something happens. And it has worked miracles for me now, because Tammy, same thing. I made a call to her. She booked a call within half an hour. And both of us were on the phone talking to her, asking all kinds of questions. She pretty much gave me every possible opportunity that I can take and potentially what might impact me, saying as well, listen, Julie, this is the beginning. You're calling me really early, so don't make any moves yet, but be cautious on certain things that you can consider without necessarily going straight to the deferral program. And I do want to make one point. I've been on a few webinars myself. There's been a lot of hype about the deferral program and is it going to impact your credit score? And there was a mortgage broker on one of the calls, that one of the webinars I was on, and I'd love to hear Lana's take on this as well, is that it doesn't impact your credit score because it's an actual deferral that you're doing with the lender. So what she suggested was that you confirm this with your lender, make sure that they're saying that it's not going to go on your credit report. That's why emailing's awesome, because they're going to email that back to you. Ask them what your payment schedule is going to be, and then confirm all of it in writing. So even if you're talking to them on the phone, send them an email and get them to send back, yes, you are correct. And then this mortgage broker was saying that that's a way that you can hang on to paperwork should something come up in the long run. And then my last comment I wanted to make, Cheri made a comment about the disputes. If you're having a dispute with your landlord and tenant and landlord. And on one of the webinars yesterday, one of my lawyers in Alberta, who I work with, was actually on the panel. And he indicated that in times of crisis, judges will always go towards the tenant. So be cautious of that. Try not to go down that avenue. Try to come up with, like Mandeep said, the payment plans, what type of scenario you can set up, and every tenant's going to be different. One tenant might say, I can give you $500. Another tenant might say, I can give you $1,000. Work it out with them separately and figure that out based on what your numbers are. And this is where cash flow is king. I'll end on that note. If you have extra cash flow, you can take a bit of a hit, and in essence, in that you can afford to have the $200 or the $500 utilized towards helping you make that payment, and still, you know, obviously collecting it later from your tenants.
Awesome. Thanks, Julia. That's great input. And I know in terms of the deferral, I think we got that really clarified yesterday. It's definitely a deferral, but yes, making sure that you are going through the process of deferring and not having it impact your credit rating is a really good tip, and confirming that with your financial institution. So we're at 4:55, and I think I have covered just about everybody who was on the call. Now, I was going to invite Elisa. We were going to talk a little bit about co-housing because we know that that's going to be something that's going to grow very soon. But because we're running out of time, we're going to be talking about that soon anyway. And I also just want to let you know, I think my little question box is temporarily frozen because it doesn't seem to want to give me the little question scroll. So if you've got some questions, try posting it in there and that might just wake it up a little bit. And if you have questions and they didn't get answered, please post them on the Facebook page. So that's WREN for us on Facebook. And looks like, yeah, there's a couple little technological things moving around here. So yes, if you have a question, just feel free to give that a try. And again, if you can't ask your question here, just post it to us on Facebook and we'll get one of our experts to reach out and answer that for you. And then of course on the webinars coming up in the next couple of weeks, we've got our accountant coming in, we've got lawyers coming in, we've got Landlord BC coming in. I'll probably be talking to the equivalent of Landlord BC in Toronto, and we'll have someone from that office coming in. And if you have anything in particular that you are concerned about and that you want us to talk about, please post that on the Facebook page as well. We want to make sure that we keep everybody moving forward, feeling supported, feeling like you've got people to talk to and vent to and share with and build relationships with, and get good advice from people who are peers and investors and people who are experts. So we're all in this together and we're going to support each other. And this webinar thing seems to really be working. We had 30 people on today, which is great. And I know it's just going to keep growing as people want more and more connection. And Mandeep, you've got the right idea with the glass of wine. I'm still banned from wine with my wild fit, but hopefully by the time we're done, I'll have a glass of wine.
I'm kid-free and husband-free right now, so I'm enjoying every minute of it.
Oh, isn't that lovely? Did you banish them to the outdoors?
I dropped the kids off at my parents' house earlier, and now I made Raj go and pick them up.
Nice. So there you go. The next thing you're going to do is like, oh my gosh, have a bath or something so indulgent, right? All right, well, we will leave it at that. Thanks, everybody. Thank you to all of these wonderful women who are giving their time every day with us or with all kinds of webinars. Everybody's really stepping up, and we are doing our absolute best to stay connected and bring you up-to-date information as soon as we can. So we will see you here again on Wednesday at 4 p.m. And if you want to join our Toronto webinar, that is at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And so have a great night. Stay healthy, stay safe. Stay positive, get to work on all those other things that are on your list. Yes, wash your hands, wrists, hair, and have an awesome day. And we will see you next time. Stay safe. Bye, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank
Liza.
you.